Lisa Jones.
Thank you. I was not prepared for that. I was like, how am I going to? Okay, thank you. I was like, how am I going to follow up that? That was amazing. Please call someone else. Please call someone else. So here I am. um, yeah, well, it's really surreal to be here in Prescott. I spent the first part of my life in Prescott, Arizona. I was born in Alaska, and just sitting in the back room of this corner, or sitting in the corner of this back room, I was remembering it was about 2 years ago. I was back in Alaska, sitting in the Captain Cook hotel room, or hotel in their ballroom for a Catholic Social Services fundraiser. Where my adopted father, unadopted, we didn't officially sign paperwork, but he's my father, had asked if he could tell my story. He had been asked to be the keynote speaker for their annual fundraiser event, and I had once lived in a group home in Alaska ran by Catholic Social Services. And when I received the phone call, I was so honored, I said, of course, yes, absolutely. That's all I've ever wanted to do, was to say thank you, and to share the stories of the people and the angels that have come into my life and that have helped me and shared their stories with me, and just how profound it is just to plant seeds of hope and possibility. And so he flew my son and I up to Alaska because they let him know, well, she has to be here if you're going to tell her story. And so we go, and I remember the way it felt sitting in the back of the room, and it was, I don't know how much bigger than this room, but it was very big. and I love my adopted dad very, very much. And he gets up onto the stage and he begins to tell my story. And he begins to say, a little bit about the adversity that I had faced, but here she is now, and she's here sitting in the back room with her son, and she came from this, and now she's a nurse, but then she didn't stop there, and she wanted more. And so then now she's in grad school, but she didn't stop there, and she wants more. She just wants more. She wants more. And he kept saying that. And I remember as he said that, I was just like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not why I'm here. That's not why I kept going. It was the stories that other people shared. And I remember this story in particular. I was 16 years old, and I came to in this hospital room after trying to leave this world. And there was a woman sitting in the corner of the room, and she was crying. And she just asked me, why did you do this to yourself? And I said, because I don't see the point. I don't see the point in living. I feel so much pain. And then she said, oh, I see. I understand. And then she begins to tell me her story about how she's from Africa. And she remembers going to the market to buy bread with her mother and her siblings, and the soldiers pointing machine guns at their heads. And then she says, and then I remember sitting in the schoolroom, and the sounds that were made when the soldiers came in and started shooting, and I began running, and I remember this sound. I remember the sound when the boy that I loved my whole life hit the ground. And she said, she went into more details just about the smells, and then she's like, and now I'm here in America, and I have a husband and 3 daughters, and I'm so happy. And I was like, what? Like, how? How could you be so happy after you've experienced so much tragedy? And she said, because I choose to be happy. And I was like, what? Like, that's a choice we can make? Like, I can have something different than I've always had? And that woman and those words and her story saved my life. Saved my life on that day. I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I just, yeah, thank you.